Namaste. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. My name is Janapati Das. Please accept my respects. Everyone, please accept my most humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada, and to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, obeisances. We're going to lead off with some chanting of Krishna's names, so please join along. Haribo. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaurakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthayate. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, and we are in the first chapter, titled Question by the Sages. We're in the part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, text 15. They are inquiring, the sages of Naimisharanya are inquiring from the head spiritual master, Sutta Goswami, and just referring to the power of the chanting of Krishna's names and how they're actually inquiring from Sutta Goswami that how can living entities be saved in this age of Kali that is about to come upon. And they actually said that living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death, which is samsara, the samsara cycle in the material world, can be freed immediately even by unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. So even fear is, one of the greatest things that living entities have, the fear of death, the fear of so many things. But the chanting of Krishna's name, which is even feared by fear personified, it is so powerful that it can save the living entity. So text 15, Yatpada Samsharayaha Sutta Munayaha Plashamayana Sadhya Punanti Upariplishata Svardhundi Apa Nishevaya Yad whose Pada, lotus feet. Yes. Srila Prabhupada, right? The master whose lotus feet we surrender and who surrenders to his lotus feet. Pada is lotus feet. So we actually offer our obeisances to the lotus feet of Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, great devotees, our spiritual master, because it is the point of humility, of complete surrender. Shamshraya, those who have taken shelter of. So those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet, right, of Krishna. Sutta, O Sutta Goswami, Munyaha, great sages. So Muni, like Narada Muni, sage. Prashamayana, absorbed in devotion to the Supreme. So it's actually equanimity, because sama, that word in Sanskrit means equal. So when you're absorbed in devotion, there is inequality. There is no, what's the word I'm thinking? Duality. Shadyaha, at once. Punanti, sanctified. Upa Prishyata, simply by association. So upa, of course, that word again, to sit closely to, right? And when we have association, is the disciple will sit close to the spiritual master. So that is the association we have with the pure devotees, or with Krishna. Swadhuni, by the sacred Ganges, apaha, water, anushevaya, bringing into use. Translation, O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the water of the Ganges can sanctify only after a prolonged use. So it's a very famous, actually sounds very, very familiar. I think actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur referenced this, that, or maybe it was Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, say that name, O Thakur, right? That one can be sanctified by the lotus feet of Krishna, who comes in touch with them, or with the lotus feet of the spiritual master, which is non-different than Krishna. Whereas the water you have to come, the person, when they would go to the Ganges to bathe because it was purifying. But this is something that my spiritual master brought up, because he was saying that bringing about the point who are people, devotees of God, or people, religionists who in the Hindu faith, who go to the Ganges to seek liberation, or Christians who bathe in the blood of Jesus. So basically they're seeking liberation, or I can't speak today, elevationism, from their, freedom from their sins or whatnot. So these people will not be caring for other living entities, will oftentimes push people out of the way to go get into the Ganges to purify their sins. But you was stating also this fact that his godbrothers would not go to hear Bhaktivedanta, but would go sightseeing to see places in India, which are purifying, but is not as purifying as they state here, to be in the presence of a sage, great sage, a munya, of, like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, or our spiritual master. The devotee of God, the pure devotee, will take the opportunity to be purified from the words, the lotus feet of their spiritual master, rather than go to the waters of the Ganges and try to be purified of their sinful reactions that way. Pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the waters of the sacred river Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges water, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that any person, regardless of birth, as Shudra, woman, or merchant, can take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and by doing so can return to Godhead. To take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means to take shelter of the pure devotees. The pure devotees, whose only business is serving, are honored by the names Prabhupada and Vishnupad, which indicate such devotees to be representatives of the lotus feet of the Lord. So even the intelligent people in, like Mary Magdalene, immediately surrendered their life, or surrendered themselves to, and washed the one Mary Magdalene who washed used perfume and washed the feet of Lord Jesus Christ. And the sages, or not the sages, but the Pharisees, who are supposed to be the representatives of God in the Jewish faith, were very puffed up and felt like, they were those people that would seek liberation or elevationism, and felt like they were the benefactors of, and they would mock this supposedly sinful person for wasting perfume on the feet, without really seeing that the pure devotee of God was right in front of them. And Jesus Christ was chastising them, said, "You didn't give me a seat when I came in. You didn't wash my feet. You didn't even offer me anything." But this woman spent all of her money to wash my feet, and to wash them with her tears, and to dry them with her hair. And so, who's really the intelligent one? Who has the wisdom? Anyone who takes shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee by accepting the pure devotee as his spiritual master can be at once purified. So Lord Jesus was indicating that Mary Magdalene became a purified soul because of that. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the Lord, because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, for they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return home back to Godhead. So this is the greatest mission of the pure devotee of Krishna, is to help like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the most fallen souls. And those devotees of Lord Chaitanya, the spiritual masters, are also Patita Pavana. They are also, their only mission is to please Lord Chaitanya by delivering the fallen souls, regardless of who they might be. And so that if there's anyone who is helping them, and they are eternally grateful for this, and the living entities who follow in the footsteps of their spiritual master to try to help deliver these fallen souls is purified. And we honor them equally. Such pure devotees are better known as vice lords according to revealed scriptures. A sincere disciple of a pure devotee considers the spiritual master equal to the Lord, but always considers himself to be a humble servant of the Lord. This is the pure devotional path. So the point being that they never feel like they're worthy but they are honored as an equal to Krishna, as the expansion of Krishna's mercy, but they never feel that way themselves. Text 16. Kova bhagavatas tasha punya shlokya karmana shuddhi kamo na shunudyud yashaha kali mahapaham. Ka hu va, rather, Bhagavata of the Lord, tasha his, punya virtuous, shloka idya worshipable by prayers, karmana deeds, shuddhi kama desiring deliverance from all sins, na not, shnuyat does hear, yasha glories, kali in the age of quarrel, mala apaham the agent for satisfaction. Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel? Who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? So that's very interesting, yeah. So that they're asking who in their right mind is wanting to be delivered from sin, who will not be wanting to hear about Krishna or about God. The age of Kali is the most condemned age due to its quarrelsome features. Yep, that's the Facebook post right there. The age of Kali is the most condemned age due to its quarrelsome features. And you get it posted and immediately people will start arguing about that. It's like people fighting, people arguing, people getting in conflicts all the time. People just consumed by anger and grief. Kali Yuga is so saturated with vicious habits that there is a great fight at the slightest misunderstanding. Those who are engaged in the pure devotional service of the Lord, who are without any desire for self-aggrandizement, and who are free from the effects of fruitive action and dry philosophical speculations, are capable of getting out of the estrangements of this complicated age. The leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship, but they have no information of the simple method of hearing the glories of the Lord. So there's never any peace. People want peace, but yet they're continuously quarrelsome and continuously fighting each other on so many different levels. But if people were to take a moment and step back and to listen to the pastimes of Krishna Katha, they would find their peace, they would find their tranquility, they would find the brotherhood with each other. On the contrary, such leaders are opposed to the propagation of the glories of the Lord. Yeah, a lot of leaders are actually becoming quicker and quicker to fall into an atheistic society. So even our politicians and our leaders are atheists, and those who are so-called, they just use they're like showboat Christians or whatever. They just bring out Jesus, it's Easter or whatever. They talk about Jesus, They're, just to get whatever they want or manipulate their followers. They're not at heart they're like those quasi-Christian, quasi-religious people who are who just use it to manipulate people. In other words, the foolish leaders want to completely deny the existence of the Lord. In the name of secular state, such leaders are enacting various plans every year, but by the insurmountable intricacies of the material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. So they're pushing materialism. They don't allow any kind of religious discussion in society. It's a separation, so-called separation of church and state. Your church has been relegated to the one day on Sunday, and then you have your holidays and whatnot. People go to church for an hour, but they don't live a very spiritual life. They don't live it. They don't live the message of Lord Jesus Christ. They don't try to implement it, because if you do that, then it's like, that's not really, then you get the atheists out there championing the other religions, like, that's not fair to the Muslims, or that's not fair to the whatever, the Jewish people, or this people or that people, or the Buddhists or the Hindus. And they don't really give a shit about any of those religions. They're actually, when you push them on it, they're atheists. So they don't believe in any God. They think that everything is just myth and whatever. And really, if you ask other people of religion, they don't really mind. They would rather people talk about God, and if you're another religion, then so be it. But the people that are usually like complaining about Christianity being taught are trying to use other religions as, you're leaving out these other religions, but they don't really care about those other religions. They don't really care about God. They'd rather just have secular state, and then they get confused why there's so many problems in society. And it's because we push materialism, we push hedonism, our new God, the golden calf, is this idea of consumption. Try to strive for a materialistic success in your life, make a lot of money, enjoy yourself, overconsume. And they don't realize that this overconsumption is actually causing great suffering to people all around them. It's causing distress and war and conflict. People can live a very simple life if they have a focus of God consciousness. But by the insurmountable intricacies of the material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. So yeah, even with the people that they lose, they don't get satisfaction from that. They have no eyes to see that their attempts at peace and friendship are failing. But here is the hint to get over the hurdle. If we want actual peace, we must open the road to understanding of the Supreme Lord Krishna and glorify him for his virtuous activities as they are depicted in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 17. Tasya karmani udarani parigitani shuribhi bruhi na shraddhananam liliyaya dadahata kalaha. Tasya, his karmani, transcendental acts, udarani, magnanimous, parigitani, broadcast, shuribhi, by the great souls, Bruhi, please speak, Naha, unto us, Shraddhanam, this is a big word, Shraddhananam, ready to receive with respect. Lilaha, pastimes, Dadataha, invented, Kalaha, incarnations. His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. So Narada Muni, the transcendental spaceman, is chanting the transcendental names of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna. Please therefore speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So I actually think that we're going to go into more about the incarnations of Krishna in this coming up. The personality of Godhead, this is a purport by Bhaktivedanta, is never inactive as some less intelligent persons suggest. His works are magnificent and magnanimous. So wonderful and compassionate, kind. His creations, both material and spiritual, are all wonderful and contain all variegatedness. They are described nicely by such liberated souls as Srila Narada, Vyasa, Valmiki, Devala, Ashita, Madhava, Sri Chaitanya, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, Sridhara, Vishwananta, Baladev, Bhaktivinoda, Sri Siddha Saraswati, and many other learned and self-realized souls. So great spiritual masters in that line there, and sages. These creations, both material and spiritual, are full of opulence, beauty, and knowledge, but the spiritual realm is more magnificent due to being full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. The material creations are manifested for some time as perverted shadows of the spiritual kingdom and can be likened to cinemas. I think that's a great analogy because, many people are like, well, we can't really prove there's more, they cite the reality of things as these empirical knowledge that we've accumulated and that we use which is highly speculative and most of the time incorrect, right? So as our means of empiricism, of trying to discern what is true and what is not true. But there is a greater knowledge, there's transcendental knowledge from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the true light and understanding of reality. And the material creations are perverted shadows. So even the knowledge itself is a perverted shadow and can be likened to cinemas. I think that's great because I think, when you go to movies or watch a TV show or something, you sit down, you have a reality, you have your life, you have things that go on, but when you sit down in the movie, suddenly you are drawn into another reality that you think is the truth. And you're caught up in the sadness and anger and scariness of the movie, and you're just like, your heart is beating and you're present with it, and up to the very point, and then you're like, oh, okay. you snap out of that reality. Or like into dreams, when you dream at night, you go into a completely different reality. It might be what you think is your life, right? But all these strange things are happening and you're not really questioning them. You're just like, well, that's kind of strange, or that's kind of scary, or that's this or that, or I'm taking a test I don't know the answers to in a movie, or I'm naked in school, and that's just normal and whatever. But then when you wake up, you're like, wow, that was a weird dream. Okay. And then you forget about it, right? So the material world is a temporary existence by which we play out these things, that there is an illusion to its realness because it is only temporary and it's not really who we are. They attract people of less intelligence calibers who are attracted by false things. Such foolish men have no information of the reality, and they take it for granted that the false material manifestation is the all in all. So I see this all the time, when there are people trying to explain, like I saw a video about the nature of understanding spiritual knowledge and understanding consciousness. And the comments coming from materialists or material scientists is that, well, there's actually more proof of consciousness arising out of the brain than consciousness not arising out of the brain, that it's some kind of spiritual thing. And to that, we would say, well, there is a knowledge that's beyond the empiricism that you will not be able to understand with the tools of materialism. It only points to it, only indicates it, it only refers to it. We have words and symbols and books that were written that we have to use this material empirical knowledge to try to understand something that is beyond or transcendental. So that is something that they don't get because of their foolishness. They just think, oh, the reality is that what I see in front of me, what I understand, what I can understand with my brain, which as faulty and as problematic as it is, temporary, prone to make mistakes, my senses, same thing, that somehow is reality, and that encompasses all in all. But it's not all in all. It's far from all in all. And even in materialism, when scientists, they're constantly doing tests or improving their microscopes and telescopes to improve, and they see things, or they experience things that don't make any sense, like the discovery of quantum mechanics and subatomic particles just does not make any sense. That it completely reworks what all these scientists in the process thought was the reality, that was the all in all. And so you won't be able to really fully understand the absolute truth with your material mind, with a speculative attitude. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to work. But more intelligent men, guided by sages like Vyasa and Narada, know that the eternal kingdom of God is more delightful, larger, and eternally full of bliss and knowledge. Those who are not conversant with the activities of the Lord in his transcendental realm are sometimes favored by the Lord in his adventures as incarnations, where he displays the eternal bliss of his association in the transcendental realm. And sometimes people are attracted, because by nature we're attracted to stories, and we're attracted to movies and things like that. And so to hear about the pastimes of Krishna is attractive, and that is a way to be attracted and to be able to enter into this transcendental knowledge. By such activities, he attracts the conditioned souls of the material world. Some of these conditioned souls are engaged in the false enjoyment of material senses, and others are simply negating the real life in the spiritual world. These less intelligent persons are known as karmis, or fruitive workers, and gyanis, or dry mental speculators. But above these two classes of men is a transcendentalist known as sattvata, or the devotee, who is busy neither with rampant material activity nor with material speculation. So I've been there, I've done that. The armchair philosophers who just spin around and around speculating, well, it could be this, it could be that, and it's just like a mental masturbation. Like they don't ever really, you would never really come to the conclusion. Just get off on all these different philosophical speculations. And so the devotee is beyond that. They're not interested in obtuse material activity or material speculation. Because even the material speculator, he may not be attached to material activity to trying to enjoy materialism. He might be, kind of a renunciate a little bit, but he's still the philosopher, and he's living up in his head, right? Can relate to that. That's how I was. He is engaged in the positive service of the Lord, and thereby he derives the highest spiritual benefit unknown to the karmis and the gyanis. It's a secret of the open secret, the king of education, the secret of all secrets, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita. As the supreme controller of both the material and spiritual worlds, the Lord has different incarnations of unlimited categories. Incarnations like Brahma, Rudra, Manu, Prithu, and Vyasa are his material qualitative incarnations, but his incarnations like Rama, Nrsinga, Varaha, and Vamana are his transcendental incarnations. Lord Sri Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations, and he is therefore the cause of all causes. Wow. Amazing. Okay. Text 18. Atta kayahi hara dimana avatara kataha supaha lila vidadata svayaram ishvalashyatma mayaya atta. Therefore, Akai, describe Hari of the Lord, Diman, O sagacious one, sagacious one, I think it's sagacious one. Avatara, incarnations, Kata, narratives, Shubha, auspicious, Lila, adventures, Vidadata, performed, Svaram, pastimes, Ishvarasha, of the Supreme Controller, Atma, personal, Maya, energies. O wise Sutta, so the sages are praying, O wise Sutta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Godhead multi-incarnations. Such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers. Purport: for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material worlds, the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead himself, appears in many thousands of forms of incarnations, and the specific adventures found in those transcendental forms are all auspicious. Both of those who are present during such activities and those who hear the transcendental narrations of such activities are benefited. Okay, text 19. Vayam tu na virit payama Uttama shloka klame yachrit vatam rasha gananam svadu pade vayam we too but na not vrit piyam vitrip, that's a tough one, vritipiyama shall be at rest. Uttama shloka, the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by transcendental prayers. Vikrame, adventures. Yat, which. Shrinvatam, by continuous hearing. Rasa, humor. Ganam, those who are conversant with. Svadu, relishing. Svadu, palatable. Pade, at every step. So we have pada, which was foot, but pade is also stepping. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. So it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, I wish I got to memorize this verse, but to those who, basically those devotees who constantly hear and pray, hear about, or they constantly relish the hearing and enlightening each other with their conversation. Of course, I'm paraphrasing it. That's in the Bhagavad Gita. And here they were saying, the sages, they get together in this great, and they talk about Krishna. You know, when we get together and we chant Krishna's names, we hear about Krishna, we listen to our spiritual master. And it's always relishing. It's very wonderful. It's exciting. It's much more sweet and wonderful and alive than hearing things that are kind of like the chewed of the chewed, the materialistic movies and books and whatnot that are watched over and over again or just lose their flavor. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. Of course, that's that reference also to that Bhagavad Gita quote. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, and history and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Yes. You know, it's kind of like in meditation classes, we would say that, you know, there are a lot of very enjoyable things materialistically in this world. But the things that you love the most, the movies, the songs, the food, we cite this example that if you were to, like, say, you know, I don't know, whatever. I like to eat with ice cream, coconut ice cream, right? Okay, and there are songs I like bands like REM, I like Miles Davis and John Coltrane and Beethoven and whatnot. But if I were to say an example, like if I REM, okay, I have to listen, and then if I were locked into a house where I had for 4 weeks, morning, afternoon, and night, eat coconut ice cream and listen to REM. After about 4 or 5 days, it would be like, oh no, I can't handle it. This is the difference. It's something that is very sweet when it's mundane. So therefore, after a while, it loses its flavor. It becomes kind of hellish, actually. That's why we get into relationships all the time, and the person seems very sweet, very sexy, very wonderful. Like we want to touch them, we want to kiss them, we want to have sex with them, we want to get to know everything about them. But you get married, and you find out real quickly that the sex gets old, the person's body changes, the personality of the person that you did not know, and your expectations were covering them up. You come to light, and sometimes they're like hellish. You want to get away from them, right? That what was very sweet in the beginning does not become sweet after all. But the histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnation of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas are histories of bygone ages recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated reading. So we can read, I've read the Srimad Bhagavatam, I've read the Bhagavad Gita many times, but we keep listening to it, we find it something new, something revealing, something very fresh. We don't ever really find that in other literatures. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life and yet find in them new light or of information. So it's constantly revealing itself. It's constantly. I read things that I've read before. I hear things from my spiritual master that I haven't, that are shed into a completely new light. It's so amazing. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. One is quickly situated by mundane activities. So we can hear Krishna. We could hear the story of Krishna as Damodar, being tied up by Mother Yasoda because he was smashing and eating the butter and feeding the butter to the whatever, and we can hear that, and we know the story, we know the plot, but we're just like on our edge. It's the real movie we're really always excited about. We're always, oh, how sweet. Krishna is like eating, feeding, giving away all this butter to the monkeys, or he's smashing pots. If anybody else was doing that, we'd be like, oh, that's terrible. But Krishna, it's like, oh, it's so sweet. It's funny. It's like, we laugh at the same jokes over and over. It's just like a transcendental humor, a transcendental rasa that we're experiencing when we listen to these stories and we are affected by them. The material rasa, or relationship, or the mood, humor, or mood, that we have that as well, but that's mundane. It's not something that lasts. It has no consistency. It may be kind of sweet in the beginning, but then it gets bitter after a while, or boring. Krishna doesn't happen that way at all. Transcendental subject matter is dynamic, is eternal, is consistently shedding new light. Mundane, okay, so I read that. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. Uttama Shloka indicates that literature which is not meant for nescience. Mundane literature is in the mode of darkness or ignorance, whereas transcendental literature is quite different. Transcendental literature is above the mode of darkness, and its light becomes more luminous with progressive reading and realization of the transcendental subject matter. Yeah, it's consistently more and more sweet. We never say we want more of it. It's like we have a deeper relationship with Krishna. We want more of Krishna. We don't want less. We want more. It's more sweet. The so-called liberated persons are never satisfied by the repetition of the words Aham Brahmasmi. Such artificial realization of the Brahman becomes hackneyed, and so to relish real pleasure they turn to the narrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are not so fortunate turn to altruism or worldly philanthropy. So actually, the impersonalists, they've tried to they've merged, they've experienced the wondrous wonder of Brahman effulgence, but they realize that is not completely satisfactory also, even though it is a transcendental experience. It's not satisfactory. So they come down, they hear, in the case of Srila Shukadev Goswami was an impersonalist when he was born because he was liberated. But his father actually had his disciples narrate the Srimad Bhagavatam out loud when he ran off to the forest. And so that attracted him back. And so that's what they're saying here, is that sometimes these people come down from their emerging experience. They think they're God, but they still have to have some kind of taste, because it's like they're not satisfied. It's not really satisfying to them. So they take that and they have a worldly relationship with their disciples, or they do philanthropic things to try to garnish that feeling. This means the Mayavadi philosophy is mundane, whereas the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. And we're going to leave it off there at text 20. Until next time, thank you very much. Namaste.